Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 323 Psychology World Podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's podcast episode is on where's exam stress for psychology students. And it is Saturday the 17th of May 2025 as I record this. Today's podcast episode is really useful, and if you're a psychology student, whatever stage you are of your psychology journey, whether you're master's, first year, third year, or second year, or any other type of year, you're going to learn a lot from this, because I've been quite surprised that over the past 6 years of the podcast, I have never done a podcast episode dedicated to exam stress or revision, and that's something that I really want to change it this year, not only for the students this year who are currently going through their exams, but also for future students. So in today's podcast episode, you're going to be learning what is exam stress, how to deal with it, how to deal with stress during an exam, but also what happens when certain things pop up in an exam. Like your mind goes blank, what if you're confused, and what if you're running out of time during an exam, because those things are bound to happen at some point in your education journey, but it isn't the end of the world. It's actually about how you respond to those events. That's what's more important. And then in today's podcast episode, you're also going to learn about how to deal with the stress of the results day itself. It's full of tons of useful tips, and you're going to learn a lot from it. So you got that to look forward to in the content part of today's episode. Moving on to the psychology news section, we're reading from the British Psychological Society Research Digest, and the first one is particularly good because it's also about exam revision to some extent. Does pink noise really help you focus? Type white noise into YouTube and you'll be met with thousands of videos with titles like white noise for ADHD relief, and the same can be said for pink and brown noise too. In fact, over the last few years, there has been increased media attention on the potential power of these dense, neutral sounds, particularly for those with ADHD. In their recent paper, Joe T. Nigg and colleagues explore whether white or pink noise actually do help people with ADHD or other attention difficulties focus on their task. The systemic review and meta-analysis finds that at least in lab settings, white and pink noise do improve performance on tasks that require attention for those with ADHD symptoms, but that it can act as a distraction for those who don't. Okay, so I quite like this article because I'm neurodivergent myself, I'm autistic, and so I never would have really thought about this too much though, because I really do like some background noise, but I also quite like it because if my housemates are talking, if I can hear them moving about, to me that's a distraction. So putting on some music actually drowns out the worst of it. Well, I don't have it very loud because the two housemates that I've got at the moment, they're on the other side of the floor, so I don't need music that loud to block them out. But I do find it really helpful. So I never would have considered that for neurotypical people or people without ADHD, it would have been a distraction. So that's something that I do find quite interesting because I know from my experience, if it's music that I've heard before, then it just fades into the background, and it helps me focus, and it's just like background noise. But if it's new music that I've not listened to before, then I do find it slightly distracting because it's like, oh, that's new. Let's pay attention, see if I actually like it. So those sort of things. So I think the takeaway from this psychology news article is think about your own music use, and if you do like white or pink noise, then if you got ADHD, then like that's a great. But if you haven't, maybe try and think about is this actually distracting me? Is this not as productive as I think it is? So moving on to the second one. How cafe music influences your coffee break. Sometimes we choose music to match our mood, other times to change it. We might go for fast paced, lively music to help with a workout, for example, or to get us going in the morning, but something slow for a romantic date. Psychology research on the impact of the music on how we feel and behave has found that, in fact, different styles of the music affect everything from our purchasing decisions in shops to whether we're inclined to linger over lunch. Now, new research in the study of sensory studies suggests that from comfortable to the length of your say music tempo can affect coffee drinking experiences too. Or, now as someone who flat out loves their coffee, this is an important one for me. So I will definitely be reading this more later on. But our music really does impact our behaviour because in like today's podcast episode, you're actually going to hear me talk about my use of the music for revision. And sometimes, if it's a topic that I'm enjoying, then I don't mind something a bit slower, a bit more like lo-fi beats. But if it's something that I really don't like, if it's something that I hate, then to be honest, I need something a bit more dramatic, a bit more epic, just to give, just to keep myself concentrating. But I remember one particular shop that we have here in the UK, even though I'm pretty sure it's a major brand. And whilst I now remember the name of the shop, I'm actually not going to say it for minor defamation reasons. So I really don't like that shop because it's really dark. The music is not to my taste, and it feels like you're not clothes shopping, and that bugs me for some reason. So I don't like that. So I don't buy from that shop anymore. But sometimes, if a shop has a really nice music there, then you do want to linger because you do want to enjoy the experience more. So I do understand it. So at the end of this article, think about your own shopping trips and like your own shopping like experiences when there's music in the background. Are you more likely to like stay there? Are you more likely to enjoy it? And those sort of things. So the final one is losing a coin toss makes it feel less fair. Let's say you and your friend have a plan to go out to dinner. You want to try a local Indian restaurant, whilst your friend prefers the idea of Italian. What further way could there be to settle this with a random coin toss? If your friend flipped the coin and won, though, you would feel that the result was somehow less fair than if you flipped the coin and lost. If so, you'll be in the same boat as thousands of participants in a new study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Attitudes and Social Cognition that demonstrate an illusion of unfairness in coin flips. This work, led by Rennie A. Furrer at the University of Virginia, reveals an example of human irrationality and potentially one with some serious implications. And I am just going to read one paragraph from the write up. Those in the gut reaction group rated the procedure and outcome as less fair. They were also less happy and more angry than the participants who made a reasoned response. This suggests that the team were The illusion of fairness is a quick default response that can be corrected, at least to some extent, with further deliberations. Okay, now that's actually really helpful, and that's actually quite helpful because we've all had those moments where something happens, we react very naturally, very impulsively, and we aren't happy. That is perfectly fine. That's perfectly normal. For example, if you lose a coin toss, then yes, you are going to feel annoyed because you're like, oh no, I thought I was going to win that. It was a 50-50 chance, and I lost that. I didn't want that to happen. Like maybe my friend didn't spin it in the right way. Maybe my friend could have done this differently, that differently, and so on. But if your friend is annoyed about the results, then it does just go to show, though, that you can talk to them about it. You can deliberate with them, and you can help show them that this was a fair, unbiased result, and that can help them to like calm down and stuff. So it's interesting, and it's definitely some food for thought, though, because how else could we apply these results in terms of when someone has a illusion of unfairness, whether this is about an election result, of an outcome of something at work, etc. If it was actually unfair, then that's completely different. If it's unfair, then we do need to like challenge it. But if it is fair and if it is an unbiased decision, then we can just talk to people. We can just deliberate with them and hopefully try and to calm them down them. And that's where we draw on our active listening skills and a whole bunch of other good points. So just something to think about. So I hope you enjoy the psychology news section. So let's move on to the personal update. So moving on to the personal update. This week's been a lot of fun because I've been doing a whole bunch of like different projects, and I've started to make some real progress with a whole bunch of them, which I won't tell you about because they're not explicitly psychology related. But I have got a lot of really fun YouTube shorts that are coming up at the moment. Speaking of which, did you know that I actually did YouTube shorts? So every day at 5 a.m. on my YouTube channel, which is the Psychology World podcast, I actually release a daily short. So this is like a very short clip about a psychology fact or something else to do with psychology that is a maximum of 1 minute because that's what YouTube allowed when I started. I know they've upped it since, but I don't want to go over that 1 minute though. So if you want a daily dose of psychology, then please head on over to my YouTube channel at the Psychology World podcast. So I've been really diving into my YouTube shorts. I've also finished a anorexia book, so it's called Anorexia and Me. That will be coming out next year, I think, so 2026. And it was a lot of fun. It was definitely hard to write because it talks about my own journey with anorexia, how I've recovered, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it was very challenging and very personal to write, and sometimes it did emotionally drain me, but I'm really proud of it. It's a lot of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to it coming out next year. Then I've also been doing lots of outreach work, so I've been doing my reading support. And next week is the last time I will ever be doing it, as we're doing the testing with the students to see how much their reading abilities improved. And then I'm never going back there, which is definitely a surprise, or or not so much a surprise because of course it was always going to end, but I am a little sad about it because I love my reading support. I love talking to the staff. Just been a massive part of my life for the past 6, 8 months. So it will be a shame, but I'm really grateful that I've been able to work with these students, been able to work with the staff, and I really do wish them all the best for the future, because some of the staff are amazing. But it's always funny when one student turns around and like says to you, oh, my teacher hates it, like hates the ride. And I'm like, yes, I know that. Because one teacher does not like me taking her students out of her lessons to improve their reading ability, which I still don't understand, but hey ho. And then on Wednesday, I was doing a really fun project at my university for outreach. So what I was doing was that I was giving some transhumanism talks. This is basically how do we upgrade ourselves with like bionic limbs, bionic eyes, basically moving upon the natural human capabilities because these like 14, 15-year-old students and what we do is that we just talk to them, and we get them to imagine what might future humans look like. So it's a lot of fun. I love that day, and it's a lot of fun to present. And because they've updated the slides, I can actually go into a lot more depth about different bits and pieces, and the whole day just streamlines so well. So I absolutely love working that day. And whilst this isn't psychology related, this is a personal update, and this is my podcast, so I'm allowed to talk about whatever I want, basically. And today should be a lot of fun because I'm going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons later with my friends, and because it's a party themed, so we're all going to this fancy party at the Blossoming Palace. I thought, right, I'm going to do something really fun. I'm going to create little notes for the other characters of like a stuff that I want. For example, my best friend's character, I've given them a note telling them about this suspicious person, and I want their help to find the truth. Two other people, I'm going to pass notes to because they haven't given me information which they were meant to from the last party, which was in game a few months ago. In life, probably 6 months. Oh wow, that's actually really bad. Okay, then I'm definitely chasing them up later. But it's a lot of fun. So I was sitting at my desk after doing some like business stuff. I think it was after I did the podcast. I wrote out the blog post for today's episode, and then I just like cut up some paper, and I was just like scribbling some notes. Well, some notes there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then, if you're European, you must know about Eurovision. So tonight I'm actually going to a Eurovision party because some of my friends love Eurovision. Now I've never watched it. When I was living at home, I made a massive point of going upstairs where my mum decided to watch it because Eurovision does not interest me. It finishes at midnight. Now, I'm an old person at heart, apparently, according to all my friends, so I didn't want to be up by midnight. Or I just want to be talking to very, very particular people who will also be there. But still, so it's a lot of fun. Life's really good at the moment, and there's lots of fun things that are going on. And as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment and the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet on Twitter at sci-fi whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And always feel free to send pictures of where you're listening in from all over the world. I always love to see where all of you are from all over the world. And today's episode has been sponsored by Third Year Survival Guide, a psychology student's guide to the final year of their undergrad degree. So this is a really good sponsor for today's episode because during the third year of your degree, this can be quite anxiety provoking. Lots of people aren't really sure about how the third year works, and there was lots of questions about dissertations, about egg exams, about how stuff work, exam weightings, egg, etc. So there's great, really easy to understand books that take you through my egg experience of the final year of my undergrad degree. And it's really insightful. I go into a lot of depth about how the third year works, what tips I can give you, And it really does help you to relax about your own third year because at least you've got a rough idea how it works. And I'm very open, I'm a very personable, and it's really, really engaging. Lots of students have found it really useful. So that is third year survival guide, a psychology student's guide to the final year of their undergraduate degree. Available from all major ebook retailers, and you can order the paperback and hardback version from Amazon, local bookstore, or local library if you requested. And if you want the AI generated audiobook narrated by artificial intelligence, then now you can. As selected audiobook retailers like Spotify, Kobo, Google Play, and Barnes& Noble, and selected library systems like Baker and Taylor, Overdrive, and Biblioteca. So, whilst buying books helps us support the creation and the editing of the podcast, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. And as always, a massive thank you to my patrons because your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So, if you want to become a patron of the show and get access to tons of great rewards, including over 60 egg exclusive blog posts, and I actually added a new egg exclusive blog post this week actually that won't be made into podcast episodes for weeks, months, or even years. Then definitely head on over to patreon.com/the Psychology Work Podcast. Plus, you also get exclusive access to these podcast episodes earlier. But if you do only want to share the podcast with one-time support, then now you can. buymeacoffee.com/Con Wiley. So that's enough for the personal update. Let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about what is exam stress for psychology students. It's a great episode. Before we dive into it, I just wanted to mention something I'm quite surprised I actually forgot to talk about in the introduction part. So the sources for today's podcast episode actually came from a series of talks that I gave at a local college in Canterbury to help 17 and 18-year-olds on how to cope with their exam stress. So I wanted to share this this knowledge with you because for outreach I gave about 3 different talks, all on this topic. So let's dive into it. What is exam stress for psychology students? So the other week I was talking to a second-year psychology friend of mine, and he was talking about the child development exam that no one was looking forward to. He was struggling to learn all the different theories of language development, let alone all the different theories and studies that he needed to learn for his exam. To say that he was stressed was an understatement, and it turns out that he wasn't alone. Was another second-year friend of mine posted on Instagram that it seemed easier to pass away than pass his exams. That was a little bit morbid, and I was a bit concerned after that, after seeing that post, but it's Instagram. And I know that this friend has a lot of other friends, and a boyfriend that he can draw on for support. My point is that it's very normal for psychology students to feel stressed during exam time. I know that I was extremely stressed during the final year of my undergraduate because I really wanted to get a 2-1, but I didn't know if my academic writing was up to scratch. Thankfully it was, but it was not a fun time for me. As a result, exam stress is exactly what it says on the tin. It is the psychological distress and feelings of overwhelm that you get from exams. Exam stress can be caused by thinking about the exam itself, the revision, and a whole bunch of other factors related to the exam. What are signs of exam stress, and how stress might make you feel? In addition, when you're feeling exam stress, you might become more susceptible to illness, like headaches and stomachs. You might experience mood swings and become more stressed out, so you're irritable and snappy. During my series of talks, I explained during that my GCSEs and for our international audience, the GCSEs are the secondary school exams that we sit in the UK when you're about 16 years old. So I was very snappy with my parents because I was stressed about my exams. Another sign of symptoms of stress is that you engage in nervous habits like biting your fingernails, and there might be changes in your eating because stress can suppress your appetite or sleeping habits. Some of the other ambassadors who were supporting my talk mentioned how their chocolate consumption skyrocketed during exam season because it helped them to relax. A personal story that I shared during my talks was that for my French GCSE marks, I was put in for the higher paper. I do not know why. I am still adamant about that fact. I have no idea why that was the case. And so I was so stressed about it the night before. I remember being wrapped up in the exam paper that whenever I tried to look at the answers, everything went blurry. I did not sleep well that night whatsoever, and I failed the higher paper anyway. I actually failed my French GCSE overall, and nowadays I'm doing very well at a French on Duolingo. And to be honest, right now I could easily pass my French exam, but I am like a decade older. Well, that's not fun to say. Another way how stress might make you feel is that you have low energy and you can't be productive, or you don't look after yourself and you have little interest in anything else. And as psychology students, you might recognize that these signs have some things in common with depression, because you can feel a little bit depressed at exam stress. Here we aren't talking about major depression, but you might still be a bit depressed during exam season. This is why it's important to practice self-care, do fun things, and don't make your entire life about revision. How to avoid exam stress. So the next part of the talk involved me discussing ways to avoid exam stress with the students. Therefore, it's important to know that exam stress can come from poor exam prep. So it's important to do a little bit every day and make a revision plan. For my neuropsychology of aging exam, it helped me to make a plan about the topics that I was going to revise each day. Because my plan made me feel more in control, and it made the revision feel a lot less overwhelming. Another source of exam stress is the fear of the unknown. This is why it's important to understand what will your exam be on and when and where it is exactly. So I didn't really experience this with my neuropsychology of aging exam because I knew everything in the lectures, the topics we might be tested on, but none of the student presentations or optional reading would be on the exam. However, the day of my exam, I had a lot of exam stress because I couldn't find where I was meant to sit in the exam hall, and I hadn't sat an in-person exam in 6 years. I was concerned and stressed about how it all worked, what I was and what I was not allowed to bring into the exam hall, and so on. So make sure you find all of this out beforehand. Two final ways to avoid exam stress are try to make sure your diet is stable. This is very important because you don't want a sugar crash or hunger impacting your exam or revision. As well as make sure to take time out so you can relax, be active and do what you enjoy. If you make your entire life about revision, the quality of your revision will decrease and you'll be burnt out by the time you reach your exam. Personally, during the talk itself, me and the other ambassadors talked about this next tip in the revision skills section, but I want to explain it to you now. So, one way to reduce exam stress and in a crucial sense of control is to revise your way. You might be a visual learner, your best friend might be an audio learner, and your other friend might advise best using active recall. Okay, active recall is always best, but revise the way that works best for you. It doesn't matter how your friends revise, you need to do what works best for you if you want to succeed in your exams. And another common little tip that I really liked asking my ambassadors was about the music that they listen to during revision. Some students need complete and utter silence to revise effectively. Other students need a background music to be able to focus. One ambassador, who I really liked, prefers to listen to classical music during revision. She finds it relaxing, whereas another ambassador likes to listen to lo-fi. For me, I tend to listen to coffee shop jazz or some Demon Slayer lo-fi during revision. But if it's a really boring topic that I hate, then I put on some more epic and dramatic Demon Slayer music because it helps me to focus. Do whatever works best for you. There is no right way, only the way that works for you. How to avoid exam stress on exam day. When it comes to the exam itself, to avoid exam stress, it is best if you avoid large amounts of caffeine and sugar on the day of the exam itself. This will help you avoid any crashes before or during your exam. Also, make sure you eat a balanced breakfast and lunch so you aren't hungry during your exams. Some other tips include arrive at the exam hall in plenty of time so you can take a break, find out where you're sitting, and relax before the exam starts. Check you're in the right place and sitting in the right exam. Get comfortable, relax, and breathe. Don't rush. Think and plan before you start answering the questions. Read the information carefully and follow all exam questions. Work out a time plan and stick to it. Decide on an exam strategy. Will you answer high or easy mark questions first? In the talk, I explained how focusing on these strategies helps me not to get stressed during my exams. Because in my neuropsychology exam, I focus on answering the 20 multiple choice questions first of all, to get them out of the way. Then I plan to spend 20 minutes on the remaining 5 short answer questions, where I needed to write in-depth answers to each one. This helped me not to get stressed, because I had a plan and I was able to stick with it. Other ways to avoid exam stress during an exam. We've all been in an exam where you're writing along and then suddenly your mind goes blank. It is one of the most annoying situations and it can really stress you out because time is still ticking away. Thoughts are starting to pop into your head about what if this is what makes you fail and so on. If your mind goes blank during an exam, put your pen down, read what you've done so far, and then plan your next steps, as well as note down everything that you know about the topic and as short leave a gap so you can move on to the next question and you can come back to it later. I found in the past that sometimes coming back to exam questions is very helpful because your answers to the other questions remind you about related topics. So you can answer the questions that you were stuck on earlier. Another issue that you might encounter during the exam is you find yourself running out of time. If you find yourself running out of time, then get the main points down and any evidence, even if it is just bullet points, you can still get marks for putting down something, and you can always return later if you have time to flesh out these points, as well as divide the remaining time between the number of answers, because it's better to put down the key information for each answer rather than just leave it blank if you can help it. Finally, for this section, you might be writing along in the exam and you're starting to get confused. I've had this a few times in my exam, and thankfully, it normally happens before, I just want to stress that, before I start writing a massive tangent that shows great knowledge, it just doesn't help me answer the question that I've actually been asked to write in the exam. So if you find yourself getting confused, then stop writing, reread the question, and relook at your plan. Have you gone off a track somewhere? 2 tips for avoiding exam stress on results day. So, results day can be just as stressful as the exam day itself, but it is often overlooked. Psychology students are always nervous, anxious, and concerned because this is the day that they've been waiting for, and it determines a lot about their next year and even next few weeks. If they've done well, then it means that they can progress to the next academic year with the confidence that they can take it a bit easier in their final year or whatever the next year is for them. If they haven't done as well as they hoped for, then they either need to really focus in the next academic year, or in the next few years, they need to submit mitigation or prepare for resits. So, 2 big tips that I want to give you about results day. Firstly, open your results in a way that is comfortable to you. If you live at home, then your parents or whoever you live with might be really excited and they might be putting a lot of pressure on you to open your results in front of them. Or your friends might want to do it all together. Whereas you might actually prefer to open your results alone in your bed. Just do what you want to do and open your results in a way that is most comfortable to you. These are your exam results. They do not belong to your parents, supporters, or friends. Only you can decide how and when you open them. And a minor tip that an ambassador mentioned during the talk was that if you didn't do as well as you hoped, then allow yourself to feel that negative emotion. Take a few hours or a day to feel bad about your results, because suppressing your emotions isn't healthy. Then move on, plan your next academic year, and don't let that result hold you back. The second and final tip for Results Day is take some time to celebrate and reflect on the past academic year. Think about what worked for you this academic year, what could have been better, and use that knowledge to have a more successful next year. And just celebrate and do nice things for yourself. Hang out with your friends, play video games. Personally, I don't know why I included that in the blog post. It was just the first thing that popped into my mind. Go out for a nice meal and just do whatever will help you celebrate. Hard work is over for another academic year, and now you have a few months of freedom before your next year begins. Enjoy it. Conclusion. So, I'm rather surprised that in the past 6 years of the Psychology World podcast, I have never done an episode on exam stress or revision. This is something that I want to change, and I'm really grateful that the schools wanted these talks delivered, and the outreach picked me to deliver these talks. It was great interacting with the students, and I really hope that you found this podcast episode as useful as the students did. I know that exams and results days can be stressful, concerning, and you can really get yourself into a panic about them. Yet at the end of this podcast episode, you now have a wide range of tips and tricks to hopefully help you avoid exam stress this season. So here are some questions to get you thinking at the end of this podcast episode. Do you get stressed about exams, revision, or results day? How could you relax and practice self-care during the exam season? How could you prepare for exams, and could you improve your practices? How do you cope with results days, and could you improve your experience? What could you do to celebrate your results after all the brilliant hard work that you've done this year? So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I did because, as I said in the podcast episode, I really enjoyed doing these talks at the local college. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that hopefully I'm going to be able to do more revision stuff in the future. Like, I think because it's halfway through the exam season at the moment, I'm going to leave it for 2025. But in future, I do want to try and do more university student stuff for the future. So just something to bear in mind. And if you know anyone who would enjoy today's episode, then please share it with them. Always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And if you want to learn more, please check out 30 Survival Guide, available from all major ebook retailers and in all the other usual places too. And if you want to become a patron of the show and support the podcast on a monthly basis that you can cancel at any time, then please head on over to patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis, then please head on over to buymeacoffee.com/Conor Whiteley. So have a great day everyone, and I'll see you next time. Found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwhiteley.net. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.